doing that. Nawe abadde atambula naffe okuva bwe twatandise the very first show. Thank you so very much okubanga okyatambula naffe naye nga gwe yakatwegattako tuba twogera ku nsonga ya tuba tutunulira ku emboozi ezayise mu mawulire olunaku olwaleero naddala mu Daily Monitor wamu ne New Vision. Kati tuvuddewo. Let's dive straight into our topic of discussion, and we are going to be looking at the State of the Nation address by the President of Uganda while he was looking at the security status in this country. And to me, the last time he had addressed the nation in regards to security was in 2018, while he introduced the likes of CCTV cameras, the likes of the 24,000 LDUs, and many more. I remember he also instructed the then Deputy Inspector General of Police, Major General Museveni, to at least make sure that security stabilizes in the districts of Entebbe, Wakiso, and Kampala. Urban crime was then so alarming. So yesterday, following the recent abductions in the districts of Masaka, Mukono, Wakiso, and Kampala, so the president was forced to come and speak in regards to that. And he said, ebyo mugamba simanyi kiwamba abantu mu NRM tebisoboka. And he instructed the generals to release a list of all those people, all Ugandans that were abducted. And he said, bonna byali byekuusa ku byakwerinda. So, like Latifa said in today's New Vision, there is a list of those abductees, oba abantu abawambibwa. So, list yaba amanya gaabwe mwegali. The fundamental question still remains. Are we safe? Should we say that abductions are normal? The fact that the president of Uganda came out yesterday and on Saturday, and talked about it. Latifa.
59 people were abducted or taken from the areas of Mpigi, Nasana, and Kampala. And then 17 people from Mukono, and those 17 people, according to the region, were released. Now, we're looking at the number of people who were arrested. And of course, the people who were arrested during the riot and after the riots, that's 177 people who were arrested during and after the riots by CMI. And we're also looking at a position whereby, one, JJ Odong and the IGP Okofor Chola were saying they do not know the whereabouts of these people. So we have a security agencies that lies about things that they have done. And so if the president, His Excellency Museveni, hadn't come out on Saturday to tell us that there are abductions, then we'd be in a crazy situation whereby we wouldn't know where our people are. Here's what I'm saying. One, I appreciate the fact that the president came out and talked about the fact that they are responsible for the abductions. This is what it does. It acquits the ruling government from having a bad name written on them, like the way the president said during the killing of women in Entebbe and also the killing of the chefs recently. Of course, it acquits them of the fact that this government does not know what they're doing, and it brings them to a position whereby tumanyite tuliko ata we're responsible for them. But then, if we're having a government that does this as a security protocol, does that mean that we should appreciate it because they're protecting us from ourselves, like the way that, what's his name, who said that the journalists are being beaten for their own good. Early to win. Of course, we know that was also communicated. So are we being abducted for our own good? Because according to the president, the security situation from November 18th to January 14th was a bit tricky because there's a group of people that were planning to disorganize the elections. Absolutely. And that's what he said. And he says that is the reason why he brought a contingent of army that were working in
from
Somalia.
DRC and Somalia.
And they came and they worked in Uganda during the elections.
Commandos.
The question is, does that make you feel safe or does that make you feel more scared? Now, earlier on, I was telling you a story, and I want to read it straight from here so that I am not misquoted. There was a one Chiweru, one of the victims who was abducted. And he says that according to his story, he was abducted at about 8 p.m. And he says, I saw a drone car that was parked near a pool table in Chisowera Trading Center. And remember that a lot of people who abducted say it was a drone car that abducted them. It was numberless. And of course, while the government was saying we don't know who is responsible and we've arrested 10 people, some people were saying we're seeing the drone car at CPS. So if they're saying that they're not responsible,
what are they doing at police station?
CPS? Exactly. Exactly. So this person says, when they saw me, gun-wielding men emerged from the drone and passed towards me. They started shooting bullets in the air. Now, these are stories from people who were released yesterday. They started shooting bullets in the air and arrested some of us. As I tried to ask why I was being arrested, they hit me with a gun butt on the head and I started bleeding. On our way to the place where they detained us for this long, we were blindfolded and our abductors kept beating us. Now, we have no certainty to this information. These are allegations that we are reading from the people
dailies
who were abducted and from the dailies, and that's information that is coming our way. And he said we could not tell where we had been taken until now. None of us can direct you to the place where we had been detained. Now, people have different stories about what happened, and some of them say they were accused of terrorism, and some of them were accused of the November 18th chaos. And I mean, the stories are there. But it brings us back to the question, Sam and Chris. Should we feel safer that the government decided to use this tactic to protect you from the chaos that could have happened on the 14th of January, 2021?
I want to remind Ugandans, before we engage them, is that these things did not just happen or did not just start within this year.
Yes.
These behaviors of abductions or chibaita panda gali have been there even in the 80s, in the 70s.
In the Idi Amin time.
In the Obote's time.
Yes.
So, for Uganda to stabilize, we had to amend our constitution in 1995, and which still stands the 1995 constitution. So, they brought clauses that if somebody is arrested, must not stay under detention for more than 48 hours.
Those are ours.
And the fundamental question I want to raise towards the security agencies is that you have a couple of Ugandans who are abducted and you kept them in carceration for more than 48 hours. Must we have waited for the president of Uganda to come and address these matters?
Well, it's important. This is what happened, Sam and Chris. Imagine if the security agencies had actually told us that we have those people and we're detaining them. Two things would have happened. The category of Ugandans that appreciate truth, like me, would have appreciated if they didn't lie to us like kids and came up to tell us this is what happened. But the category of Ugandans who feel that their rights are being stepped on. Kizza Besigye came up and said it is illegal for them to have done what they did, and it is illegal for the president to have stood on the screen and be proud about what happened. Those are Kizza Besigye's words. And here's the thing. The other section of Ugandans would riot because you have abducted our people and we want them back. Now, the question that is raging in my mind right now, the question that I'm asking myself, Sam and Chris, how far do we need to go to protect the peace and security in this country? The internet was shut down. Now we see that people were abducted. To what extent do we need to go to protect this country? Now we know that before the 18th, the abduction stories were not there. We didn't hear them. If they were there was silence. They were silent. But of course, after November 18th, after the riot, the story started unfolding. Now, are we saying that Ugandans threw the first stone in the beehive? Are we the first one who threw the stone in the beehive, and that's what made the government say, okay, if they can organize such a riot, a big riot like November 18th, because it wasn't in Kampala only. It was in Kampala, it was in Bali, it was in Jinja, it was in Arua, it was countrywide. And that was a very good organization from the parts of the people who rioted. That's very good organization. So what I believe is that when the government saw the November 18th violence, they said, we're not going to let that happen. And the only way to stop this from happening is by taking in the masterminds, keeping them until after the elections, and then releasing them.
Unfortunately, Latifa, there are quite a number of questions. Mu Luganda bagamba ebibuuzo bingi naye answer ntono. And you probably you could be even asking a wrong person. So I thought you'd look into the camera and ask those that are responsible. I do not speak for the forces.
I think it's really a line of thought. I wasn't really asking you directly. I was thinking out loud. I was trying to figure out a few things in my head, because here's the thing, when such a story comes out, it is a breaking story. And you're trying to understand it as a person. You're trying to understand it as a journalist, you're trying to understand it as a parent, brother or sister of the person who was abducted, and you're thinking, did they do it to protect me and the rest of the Ugandans?
Was a culprit.
Was he a culprit, or did they not investigate properly and they arrested my person for a thing they did not do? So what is your line of thought, ladies and gentlemen?
As they also do come in, we have security agencies that ought to have done this job. We have ISO. No, let's start with the police. Headed by the Inspector General of Police, Martin Okoth Ochola.
Yes.
With his new deputy, Major General Paul Okech. We have CMI, headed by Grace Okuro. We have ISO. All these agencies must have worked together before even the president came out. In my belief, CMI, ISO, police, at least, yes. But in Ministry of Internal Affairs, now listen, the statement that came from police and the statement that came from Ministry of Internal Affairs, they literally contradicted themselves.
They did.
And we ask ourselves, bakolaganira wamu?
I think it's just the confusion of whether it was okay for them to release a statement at such a time when Ugandans were still angry about the just concluded elections. And like I told you, if it was from the police, there'll be a different reaction for it, other than now that it's from the president. Chris, how would you feel if the information had come from IGP Okoth Ochola or Dejo Dong? How would you feel about it? Wouldn't you feel like we're being marginalized? Wouldn't you feel like we're being hurt? But coming from the president, who is the authority, he's standing there, he's an authority, and he's telling you, I have your people, and they're safe and sound. It comes with a certain sense of surety, a certain sense of security,
a little bit, yes, a little bit.
When the president says it, other than when the IGP Okoth Ochola says it. When Okoth Ochola says it, I'll be like, how dare you? But when the president says it...
But it also raises some question marks, Latifa. Does that mean that other agencies are not active? You do remember when the IGG's office failed, we had to create the State House Anti-Corruption Unit. When the Minister of Land failed, we had to create the Land Commission, all funded by the State House. So are we taking that direction?
I think here's the problem. When the state entities are not given a go-ahead to say some things, it creates a situation of we're not so sure if these people have the right to communicate some things. Because when we look at what happened, they had to wait for the president to say it. And here's how he said it. The security agencies should not lie to people. Simon Chris, you're literally shooting yourselves in the foot by saying that the security agencies shouldn't lie to people. That means they're lying to people. How many false statements have been given to Ugandans? They're questions that people are asking themselves. And that's why it's important for an epitome of power, like Yoweri Museveni, to be careful about the statements he makes, and for him to know how he's aligning things he's talking about. We know that a lot of people disappeared. 31 of the 44 had not surfaced, but now that we see that 71 are back, the number is deducting, and we're seeing that more of our people are coming back. But there are also stories of torture from the people who were abducted. How is the government and security agencies going to answer to those crimes, because they're infringing on people's rights?
Actually, that statement also got me thinking otherwise, because I didn't expect it to come from the president of Uganda, who is the fountain of honor and the chief in command, that other security agencies shouldn't lie to you. I mean, it got me thinking otherwise. That's why I brought this argument that if the IGG's office failed, and we saw a creation of the State House Anti-Corruption Unit, Ministry of Land failed, and we saw a creation of the Land Commission headed by Catherine Bamugemeride. Now, if ISO fails, if CMI fails, what do we see coming next? If that is the trend we are taking, what do we see coming next?
European Union said they're going to stop members of parliament or leaders in Uganda who are involved in the violations of human rights from traveling to the European countries. And Museveni laughed at them really hard. And he said, personally, I would never want to go to Europe. I love my country. And even when they tell me, you have a trip to Europe, I feel like that's a lot for me to do. That's exactly what he said. So he said they shouldn't scare you, and for me, they don't scare us. And we see that the president on several occasions has said that Uganda does not need the interference of these Western nations. But the moment you're part of units like the African Union, the moment you're part of of units like the UN Declaration, then you have rules that you need to keep to.
Latifa, I'm one of the people that have been keenly watching and following up on the president's addresses. If you're a critical analyst, you'd realize that whenever he's sending a message to the Western civilizations, he doesn't speak like the president of Uganda. He speaks like a Pan-Africanist. He speaks about integration of Africa. He speaks about how Africa needs to find solutions to our problems. You heard him speak about how he moved around different African countries, trying to stabilize peace, trying to advocate for independence in different African countries. They started in Tanzania, they went to Angola, they went to Mozambique, they went to South Africa, Ghana. So he spoke like he's still vital and vibrant in the African politics.
Are we picking the fight? Are we picking when to become a Pan-Africanist and when
I think Ugandans haven't embraced that.
It's not about that, Simon Chris. When you decide to be a Pan-Africanist, when you're violating human rights and you feel like they won't touch you,
that is still an allegation, because
then there's a problem. No, why I'm saying that is because even when US and Europe came up to talk about the elections, the just concluded elections, His Excellency said we do not want Western interference. When they sent election observers, we only gave them a small number of the election observers.
Actually, EU didn't even show up.
Exactly, they didn't show up. Now, when my problem is, we are Pan-Africanists, right? We brag about that. But when do we decide to put on the cloth of Pan-Africanism, and when do we decide to take it off is the question.
I think we can put on that cloth immediately after we choose to identify who we are.
You're not understanding where I'm coming from. The president decides to put on the Pan-Africanism cloth when the AU, the EU, and US sanction him. Exactly, sanction him over issues such as abductions of people. Now, we need to be careful on when we use the Pan-Africanism quote. Are we using it at a time when Ugandans feel safe and we feel like we don't want external interference because we feel safe? Or are we using it at a time when Ugandans feel like we do need external interference to save us from our own government? I'm not saying we should be scared of the government because, of course, they have done what they ought to have done to protect us from ourselves is what they say. But that's what I'm saying. How far do we need to go to protect Ugandans or keep peace and security in our nation? What is the extent? Are we going to keep shutting down internet? Are we going to keep abducting Ugandans? How far are we going to go?
I'm one of the people that don't need to discuss security details and said, because there are people who literally speak for security matters in this country. But what I do understand is that our security is one of the most qualified on planet, on Mother Africa.
Definitely.
And
the UPDF
it
is one of
it's
the
in black and white.
trained.
Yeah, it's in black and white that we have stabilized peace in our neighboring countries, the likes of South Sudan, the likes of DRC Congo. We have gone to Somalia. You remember the recent attack in the Westgate in Kenya. Ugandans were also fast to respond. So that is how vital we are in the region. But going back to the issue of European Union, I don't want to use the word poking their nose into Ugandan affairs, but having interest in the Ugandan affairs, one, I want to speak on both sides of the coin. One side of the coin, I would think in a way that we do not need them. Okay? We can identify who we are and find solutions to our own problems. However, when I flip the other side of the coin, I feel like we need them. And wait a minute. It's in their interest to make sure that everything goes on smoothly in this country. The fact that we are doing business with them. We are doing business with those European countries. So our stability is of interest to them. If our country, if there is turmoil in this country, that means they are also losing out in terms of business.
Well, as long as you're getting loans from European Union and the US,
they'll still poke their noses.
They're still you're responsible for the poking of the nose.
Okay.
Exactly.
So we
Ladies
should
and
wake up as
gentlemen,
Ugandans.
I don't think there's much we can
Boo
do
boo.
at this point. Ladies and gentlemen, our phone lines will be open in just a few minutes for you to be able to engage yourselves in this conversation and tell us, do you feel safer now that the president has come out to talk about the whereabouts of our people, your people? Does it make you feel safer or does it not? Because we're in a situation where finally the whereabouts of our people has been communicated to us by, of course, the Fountain of Honor, His Excellency Yoweri Museveni. But then the IGP, Okoth Ochola, and Jaja Odong came up and said they do not know the whereabouts of Ugandans. And a lot of people were questioning themselves. If the IGP does not know where our people are,
who knows?
Who knows? Who has the answer?
And the Baganda have a saying, Latif. Baganda are very smart people. God should have exposed them more because they really have several kinds of words of wisdom. Abaganda omuyagamba nti bogenda mu nyumba y'omuntu n'omusanga yeebikka kutiya oba ddiba tosaba bulangiti. Kati ebyokwenda bagamba tebamanyi bantu wano gye bali. Ffe twandibadde tubajja.
Ladies and gentlemen, we have a call online. Hello?
Hello?
Yes, please. Oliquest TV, Manya Gonejo Kubide.
Hello?
Good morning. Hello.
It's a Monday.
I
Have
know.
some vigor, have some energy. Hello?
Yes, amanya gange nze
Yogerako nnyo.
amanya gange nze Lugazi.
Yes, sebo.
Kakati nze president okuva nakonako kumuseze ku abduction nanso.
Oh, tetukuulira bulungi. All right, the number still remains on your screen. You can call us back and share with us your views. After the president of Uganda addressed the nation on Saturday on the matters of security, and he said that awonna bemugamba nti bawambibwa list babayina era nga list yafulumye mu mpapula zamu olunaku olwaleero. So oluvannyuma lw'omukulembeze w'eggwanga General Kaguta Museveni okuvaayo n'atangaza ku nsonga ezo, mmwe bannayuganda muwulira nga kati emitima gikkakkanye oba waliwo ekibulamu? That is the question that we are trying to ask you, and you can be part of this show by either calling us, the number that is on your screen, or you can go on our Facebook page and table down your comment or type your comment, and then we shall find time to speak it out or read it out. Tiva, you're still speaking about the issue of European Union. We do know that they were in August House, they're in their parliament, speaking about matters of Uganda, asking that they should put a sanction to some government officials from this country so that they do not go to those European countries. The president said,
the president, his exact words were, I want to comment on the excitement caused by some foreigners trying to interfere with our internal affairs. Ignore them. Don't listen to them. Don't be influenced by what they're saying because they could lead to a lot of distortion.
STV, the first show. Sorry, you can call back in case we lost you, but in regards to the president's address, there's also one statement that also caught my attention. Out of the other 176 people that were arrested by CMI, according to him, he says 59 are still under custody and they are helping police to carry on the investigations. And he said that talk of people disappearing should be ignored in Uganda. Good morning. Hello.
Hello.
Good morning.
Good morning, sir.
Your name and where you're calling us from?
Yes, this is
Ani?
Simba Mara calling from Chikaji.
Yes, Chikaji mugamba mutya? Oh, I don't know what's happening with the lines, but keep trying. In case you go through, you'll be able to share with us your views.
Definitely. So you were still telling us about the
So he said that 59 are still helping police to trace others. So that means those that could be arrested anytime soon.
We know that among the 59, there are the NUP group that are still in custody. Hello?
Hello.
Yes, please. A very good morning.
Good morning, Makanda.
Good morning, Chief. How are you?
and Latifa, my MP 2026 in Bongo.
Good morning.
Your name? Who?
What is your submission to the fact that the president talked about the abductions yesterday?
The president said
Actually on Saturday.
Kibanga omuzadde wavayo naga nti amaka gano kangatebenkeze oba kangaterereze ndabira ddala nti pulezidenti kano kavudde abantu bakola ebintu bajja kuvayo nabagezeko babiterereze nekulwekyo with security ndaba nti security ejja kuterera ekyo kyensuubira ekyo.
Okay. Thank you for that. And that's what I told you earlier. A section of Ugandans feel that it is safe, it's good that the president came out
so
to
he
do
spoke
that.
like a father to the nation.
Exactly. And some people say, why wait for this long? And those are the questions that are ranging in people's minds. Some people say, thank you for finally coming out. The security was not telling us the truth. You know, we have a call.
And where does
Hello?
it live?
Hello. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullah.
Tewebale kuleesa okuyiga salaamu kakati waliwo issue gye njagala mutegeere. Mwe ba civilian yo side of view ku bintu bino mugiraba bulala naye ekintu kino kyavadda abantu ba civilian okujooga amagye omulembe gwa Museveni onookola ki kati abasirikale abo bafuna omusaala mutono nnyo bwe bajja mu bantu ng'ate bali humiliated n'omusaala nammwe abantu ne muba humiliatinga obusungu bwaba nabo buba bungi wabula nga ba presidential advisors kye bandibadde bakola president yaddisownings abduction y'abantu kubanga kati mulimu abantu abakolera mu gavumenti naye ng'ayagala gavumenti egwe singa afuna obusobozi ate ayinza okutta abantu ne banoonya abantu abamu ku be bawandiise nti abantu bano gye bali security ebalina ogenda okumaliriza nga bafudde kati ate omugugu ne gudda eri gavumenti so n'olw'ensonga eyo abantu tulina okuharmonizinga situation abacivilian baddemu okurespectinga amagye ffe tuli bantu bakuuma ddembe naye tukoledde eggwanga lino honestly naye okutuuka mu bantu oli ne bw'aba atomedde ku mmotoka yo ne bw'aba akuguzizza ttaka n'agamba wuno omusirikale atwala ttaka lyange naye ng'endagaano weezi ekyalo ne kikuba enduulu omusirikale wuno atwala ttaka naffe tulina ebizibu byaffe ng'abantu kyova olaba waliwo crashing point wakati w'omuwambala uniform n'omuntu wa bulijjo mutuyisa bubi nnyo 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 otherwise mundabira nnyo keesi mbuga mukyalo oyo Latifa naye webale kuba na mpisa ne Christmas kanga nkulaba n'ettamala emirundi twakolanga naye mwebale kuba na TV ya buvunaanyizibwa mukama abakumbi.
Alhamdulillah. Wow.
That view
was good. He spoke like a security person.
He spoke like a security person, but that view is quite intriguing because here's what he says, that like I said earlier, you're pelting stones at a beehive, and it's quite risky for us to do that. And truth is, we know there's a section of Ugandans during the November 18th riot that made such a fuss about the arrest of Robert Chagulanyi. There were tires that were lit, there were buildings that were destroyed, and I remember the president was talking about that, and the president was saying, when we're taking the government over from Idi Amin, we did not destroy property, but we came, we did what we did, and we came into power. But
he talked about the Uganda house.
The Uganda house. He's like, the Uganda house is up till now. If we were the type of people who destroy property, then it wouldn't be there. The history wouldn't be there. Makerere University wouldn't be there. But he says we didn't touch the buildings. But however, he compares it to what happened on November 18th. And he said even if it was the law of the liberation war, he said still the kind of atrocities that happened were not called for. Hello?
Hello?
Yes, please. Only question.
Yes.
Good morning.
Good morning, sir.
Kale se. Amanya ne jokubide?
Amanya Gazi.
Ani?
Rebecca Joseph.
Yes, Rebecca Joseph. Omukulembeze w'eggwanga yogera ku Saturday ku nsonga ebyokwerinda gwe owulira muli mutima wakakkanye.
Bwana Makanga.
Yes, sir.
Enyiza okubagamba abantu mubongedde busuumu. Pulezidenti okuva n'ategeeza eggwanga ezigina maaso yabadde mutuufu kusanyukira kituufu nga fountain ona okuva n'adresi musanvu. Naye ekibuzo kyaffe kiddayo abantu bwe bamala okubakwata ne bawamba mu mukanga bwe ekyasi ekibeera kiba kikyakujjala wabonyeebonye mumale mubasule gye mubasibirira mumale mujje mutugambe abano twabawamba tubalina erikiriri naye mubakirimu enjala mubakoze buli kimu eyo olina egenze maaso emaane mubazza nemubasuula gye mubatudde nosuubira abantu bagenda kubakola kibiri ali mukaaga mutongedde busuumu abasajja abo batongedde busuumu tuli banyiivu nnyo 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 nnyo.
Kale tweyanziza nnyo tweyanzeege.
As we're speaking about this, the last caller said something. And he said that the presidential advisors should have advised the president to separate himself from this abduction and not be part of it. I'll come to your thought after we pick up this caller. Hello?
STV, the first show.
Yes.
Hello?
Yes.
Tukuwulira Sebo manya gona gy'okubidde.
Yebaleko Sebo.
Kale Sebo.
Kati. Hello?
Ani?
Kati. Hello?
Yes. Simon Chris Makanga, Latifa Hamid. Ate gwe.
Amanya gange.
Amanya ne gy'okubidde?
Amanya gy'okubidde kiraba nti Ahmed. Kati mulamu ogwo president ku security president waffe atulimba nnyo ebiseera ebisinga teri kibeera mu ground nga takimanyi ekibeera mu ground aba kimanyi esa security buli kyasuubiza agamba nedda asuubiza ebintu nga tabikola ebisuubiza so teri ekiri mu ground kyatamanyi.
Kale tweyanziza nnyo olw'endowoozayo.
So as I was telling you, there are two things that he said. The first one, of course, was the president should have distanced himself from this conversation and said, I have no idea about it. But that would be the president lying the second time, or president lying again, after the security agencies lied. And then the other thing he said is the frustration of the poor pay. How long are we going to play the card? The frustration of poor pay among the army and the police, because that card is no longer viable. That card is no longer used. It can't be used anymore. Hello? Hello? Hello?
All right, as you're calling back, make sure that you turn down the volume of your TV set so that we can get to hear from you, not from the neighboring sounds or noise. Latifa is still asking about something.
Definitely, I was still asking, is the card of low pay of security agencies still viable? Because we cannot keep playing that card when the solution is not being gotten. How long are we going to use that card? We have a caller. Hello? Oliquest TV. Amanya gona gy'okubidde.
Kizito Mseta.
Yes, Kizito. Very good morning to you. Wasuze otya?
Hello.
Tukuwulira Sebo.
Yawo mugyebaliko.
Kale Sebo naawe gyebaliko.
Bannaye omuntu yenna ayimirira nga tayimirira mubi nnyo.
Akola ki?
Muyimirira ku magulu gate n'ogamba nti oyimiridde. Kiba kyamutawaana nnyo. Omuntu atwala eggwanga oyinza otya okuŋŋaanya nti buli kye bakubuuza ffe twegedde tekimanyi. Kitegeeza eggwanga oba tukyalirina mu ngalo waliwo bye wali kwasa lwe ng'okola bibyo okasita bakola okukukuuma nabo bagamba ekitegeeza buli omu we yamuteeka ali indipendenti abasekurite bali indipendenti buli kitongole kyonna kati kiri indipendenti bakyalina wadde balipooti Ndekyo kye mulabamu omukulu oyo.
Kale tuyanzanye tweyanzeege.
Well, thank you so much for your comment. Of course, as we're winding up this conversation and going to the lifestyle segment with Angie, and of course, like I said, it's a divided thought among Ugandans. Some people feel safe now that the president said that, and some people feel that he shouldn't have said.
I'm one of the people who think, in my humble view, as a law-abiding citizen, I'm one of the people who feel and think that the president needed not to come out.
Well,
it's weakening other institutions.
No, I
when I can also re-echo the statement he made. Ngabakubamu emisumali agamba bina bikutungule byokwerinda tebibalimba. I mean, you're degrading them, you're weakening them. So how shall we trust any statement that comes next from them?
But it's not the president's decision for them to have lied. They felt that in order to protect themselves, they need to keep
so are we going to run on lies
away from Ugandans. And here's the thing, I actually appreciate the fact that the president came up to tell us where our people are. We were so worried, and we did not have information, even journalists did not have information about the whereabouts of these people. I actually appreciate that we can now sit here and read names and say Junior Chiberu is in this and this place, Juma Mukasa is in this and this place. I know that my person is alive and kicking. Not knowing that he's dead or alive is a situation that I wouldn't have been in.
How long shall we take for us to walk that talk? The Inspector General of Police, Martin Okoth Ochola, Bwalia Katwala office, came out clearly and he gave directives to all Abebyo Kwerinda. If I'm coming to arrest Latifa, I will identify myself. I'll give reasons for your arrest, and then, okay, now we take your mukono if you've come to arrest me, okay? Nteka kempingu tugende. Naye kati ekiriwo Latifa tumumanyi ko batwamulideko ABCD bajja kugrabinga bugrabizi mpaka mu balitaze drone, numberless drones.
But do you hear the difference of the tag names? There is arrest and there is abduction. There were two different things. The abduction was illegal and it is not an arrest. So at the end of the day, that is why security agencies try to distance themselves from this conversation. However, we are
I think the president, we need to build trust within the security agencies. Let them do their work. He's the fountain of honor. He's the commander-in-chief. Omuntu omukulu ngo president watukira okuvaayo n'ayogera ku nsonga kitegeeza ebeesa jjuse. And I mean, bw'avaayo n'anafuya bino ebitongole ebirala. How will Ugandans trust any other statement that comes from them?
Well, we hear you. Thank you so much, Simon Chris Makanga, and those who were able to call us and tell us what their line of thought is about the fact that His Excellency Yoweri Kaguta Museveni came out clearly and said they know where the people that were arrested and abducted are.